hamstring curl. So we're using an incline bench here, set on the lowest setting. And the reason that we're doing a hip extended hamstring curl is a lot of times people are a lot stronger at that proximal attachment, or the attachment that's closest to the hip relative to the one that's down at the knee joint. So a hamstring muscle crosses our hip joint and it crosses our knee joint. So if we go into hip extended position, what we can do is put that hamstring that's higher up on the hip in a really shortened position, and it makes it really hard to use that hamstring down at the knee. The other reason that we like doing it on a bench is we can bring that off leg forward. And when we bring that off leg forward, it brings us into hip flexion, which helps neutralize our low back, because so many people will really compensate into lumbar extension, or they're just going into hyperextension in their back. So when you get set up, set that bench at the lowest setting, and then we want our opposite hip, so for me, my left hip, to go into the bench, and then I like to have my hands right at the top of the bench so I can actually kind of pull down into the bench to create some tension in my midsection to be able to brace through my abs. And then I like to get my foot as high up as I can relative to my mobility. So if you can't get in that position, just keep your foot back a little bit, but the further you can go forward, the better, because it's going to help lock up my hip, my low back and my pelvis region. So from here, what I'm doing is I'm pulling down into the bench, I'm pushing my left hip into the bench to keep my hip into extension, firing my left glute, I'm going to point my toe, and then I'm going to pull my heel to my butt as far as I can, pause, and then come back down. So if I get up too high, I start to arch my back and cheat, and I don't feel the load necessarily in my hamstring, I feel it in my low back. So focus on keeping that glute engaged, toe pointed, to feel the hamstring contract. So that's the first part of it. Now if we want to really target the hamstring group, there's multiple hamstrings that attach on different sides of my knee joint. So what we can do is we can keep that toe pointed, and we can add a tibial rotation or a lower leg rotation while we're doing the hamstring curl. So if I'm in that position, what I would do is point my toe, and I would go toe in, and I would curl up as far as I can, and then I would rotate toe out, lower back down, keep that toe out, curl up, toe in, lower back down, and that would be an example of 1 rep. So if I'm gonna flip the bench here. So a rear facing view, and I'm just gonna go through those rotations. So I'm in that split stance position, hip pushed into the bench, toe pointed, I'm gonna curl, so I'm gonna go toe in, I'm gonna curl up, rotate toe out, lower back down, curl back up, toe in, and then point and come back down. And what you'll find is it's really hard to kind of feel where your toe's going, and a lot of people are going to try to pull their toe up when they go in, which will make the calf become more active, and it'll take the load out of the hamstring. So if you need to use a mirror for some feedback to figure out where your foot's at in space, that's totally fine, but just be intentional that the load's going into your hamstring, not your calf, not your low back. Keep that glute engaged, pelvis, low back in a neutral position, with the whole emphasis of literally loading just the hamstring.